All right, let's talk about working with dogs out in the field. It's not so simple as it seems. This dog, he's been overheated for probably about at least an hour, and I'm trying to get him to settle down. That was only after about 1 hour drive in his truck kennel with plenty of cold water. Now, aside from heat injuries with the dogs, there's also a few other common injuries. One is cuts and lacerations to the paws of their feet. This can happen on sharp rocks, and there's also punctures from splinters. It's very painful for the dog, and it's a problem if you're way out in the field, far from your vehicle, or far from any means to transport the dog back for any kind of medical treatment or recovery time. Another common problem with dogs is snake bites. They tend to be curious and to go after whatever they see. They want to smell it. Of course, snakes will strike. In many areas of the country, there's rattlesnakes and copperheads. Anti-venom can be hard to get. There's a few different ways to try to keep the swelling down, just so you can create some more time to get the dog to medical treatment. The emergency vet clinics are usually few and far between because most vet clinics don't have the ability to be an emergency vet clinic in which they're open, 24/7. With the overheating problem, it's always good to take a dog wherever there's a lot of shade and a lot of water, clean water for them to drink so that they can stay hydrated, and also take a lot of rest breaks while out in the wilderness with the dog to let them cool down. Because remember, they've got this fur coat, so they overheat even faster in the hot weather. And from just the extra exertion of the high amount of activity that they do running around. It's rare, but they can sometimes get lost. Generally, they're pretty good at finding their way back. I think in many situations, the problem occurs when the dog runs off and then the owner tries moving to a different place to find the dog. The dog may eventually come back to where it originally lost its owner, but at that time, the owner's in a totally different place and the dog may have trouble smelling and tracking the owner back to where he is. For helping to keep track of the dog, I like to use the Garmin tracking collars. The handheld unit will show you where the dog is, and they've got a really far range and a pretty good battery life. This has helped me out on more than one occasion where the dog became overheated and lost track of me while we were out on the stalk, and naturally followed our path back to the truck. I tried running after the dog, and I wouldn't have known where to chase him unless I had that handheld tracking device. The tracking collar has the ability to shock the dog if he's getting into some area he shouldn't be. So if you see him getting near a road that's on your handheld unit, you can go ahead and shock him. Or if he gets too far ahead of you. Now let's cover some of the capabilities that the dog can bring to your team. Now these dogs have senses that are better attuned to the wilderness environment. Their sense of hearing, their sense of sight, especially in low light circumstances, and their sense of smell, which may be their greatest ability. I've gone out to this wilderness area, parked the truck, started hiking east, then hiked a few miles south, then hiked a few miles west, then a few miles north, and came back to the truck from a totally different direction. Even though the truck was downwind of us, the dog was still able to somehow recognize his way back to the truck and take me there. Even though my GPS unit and maps allowed me to find the truck, I let the dog take point, and he was able to make it back to the truck on his own. Now, these dogs have an excellent ability to hear things in the woods. If the dog acts a little strange and his attention seems to focus on a certain area, he can likely hear or smell or possibly even see something that you don't. It's important to be able to know the dog's normal behavior, and when you observe the dog acting strangely or still and focused on something with his ears perked up, it does mean there's something there. In time, I think you and the dog will understand what threats exist out in the wilderness, what's important and what's not important. It's important to learn to trust the dog's senses. Remember, they can see, hear, and smell things that you cannot.